awkward because I kept downplaying what happened, calling it a misunderstanding or saying it wasn't that bad compared to what other people go through. Jacinta stopped me halfway through and asked why I was minimizing something that clearly violated my safety and trust. I didn't have a good answer. Over the next several sessions, she helped me see the pattern between how Elaine had treated me my whole life and why I didn't recognize Carson's red flags. I'd spent so many years making excuses for Elaine's cruelty to keep family peace that my instinct was to ignore warning signs and prioritize other people's comfort over my own safety. Jacinta said this wasn't a character flaw. It was a learned behavior from growing up in a family where speaking up about mistreatment got me labeled as sensitive or dramatic. In our third session, I told Jacinta about specific times Elaine had humiliated me growing up, and how I'd always brushed it off as sibling rivalry or her just being competitive. She asked what I would think if a friend described their sister treating them that way, and I realized immediately that I'd tell them it was cruel and unacceptable. Somehow I'd never applied that same standard to my own experiences. Jacinta gave me practical tools for recognizing manipulation tactics, like noticing when someone makes you feel responsible for their emotions, or when they rewrite history to make you doubt your memory. She also taught me how to set boundaries without feeling guilty, which felt like learning a language I should have known my whole life. The work was uncomfortable because it meant acknowledging how much I'd tolerated and how that made me vulnerable to someone like Carson. The financial cost of everything hit hard around week 5. Between Tanner's investigator fees, the legal consultation, new locks, and a security camera for my apartment and ongoing therapy sessions, I'd burned through most of my savings. I picked up every extra shift my manager offered and started doing side gigs on weekends just to cover the basics. Maya noticed I looked exhausted and offered to loan me money, but I turned her down even though I appreciated it. I needed to prove to myself that I could handle this independently without depending on someone to rescue me. The stress of working 60-hour weeks while processing trauma made me feel like I was running on empty, but giving up wasn't an option. I meal prepped cheap food on Sundays, canceled my streaming subscriptions, and stopped buying coffee out. Every dollar mattered when I was rebuilding my sense of security from scratch. Around week 7, some people from the wedding started reaching out asking what really happened with Carson. I'd stayed off social media mostly, but apparently Carson had been posting vague things about crazy exes and how some people can't handle genuine connection. A bridesmaid I barely knew sent a long message asking for my side of the story because she'd heard conflicting accounts. I realized Carson was running his own counter-narrative to make me look unstable or vindictive. I wrote back a brief, factual explanation to the people I actually trusted, saying Carson had lied about his identity and that I'd gotten a restraining order after discovering his criminal history. I didn't go into detail about the manipulation or the violation I felt, just stuck to facts that could be verified. With everyone else, I let it go. Some people would believe Carson's version no matter what I said, and trying to control the narrative with acquaintances I'd never see again wasn't worth my energy. It stung knowing people thought I was the problem, but Jacinta reminded me that people who matter would trust me, and people who didn't know me well enough to give me the benefit of doubt weren't worth worrying about. 3 months after the restraining order, Detective Gregory called with news that shifted everything. Carson had violated his probation by contacting one of his previous victims through a fake social media account, and the woman